Welcome back to the class, everyone. It's finally here. One of the most expensive teams in Galaxy of Heroes has finally made its way into a Lightspeed bundle. And while the Inquisitors probably perfectly encapsulate the idea of a team that everybody just wanted to have without having to go through all the work it takes to get them, we need to do a little bit of a breakdown as to how valuable the pack actually is, as it is a little bit more expensive. Also Boba Fett. So we do have a spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers on it, and it'll probably look really familiar. But before we do that, it's more relevant than ever that we talk about the overall value of what you're getting. Because I can sit here and show you a spreadsheet that says getting an R9 Mob Enforcer and Gamguard is actually worth a lot of money, when in reality, those two exact characters probably aren't going to do a lot for you, except maybe in the case of DCs, of which we just actually got one for both of them. So overall, for $39.99 or $37.99, you can get Boba Fett Scion of Django, who is a Proving Grounds character at R6 with all level 8 abilities. That's a huge deal because a lot of his level 8 abilities are not only going to be, I think he has like 1 Zeta, but on top of that, he has Omicrons in there, 3 Omicrons total. And then in addition to that, we had the Inquisitors that we talked about previously, where you get all 5 of them at Relic 5, which is a rather big deal considering they're all very heavy Chirotech characters and some other things. But I want to talk again about the overall viability of those characters before we jump into the raw data of how much bang you're really getting for your buck. And the first one is going to be the fact that the Inquisitors are absolutely amazing in almost every single thing they do, and there's pretty much no dead weight to the pack at all. Number one, you need all 5 of them to progress with the Inquisitors to be able to get Grand Inquisitor, and then later on to also get Reva. But even after you're done with that, you don't just have this useless requirement lying around. You're going to be getting use in a lot of other ways. So obviously this is the core team before you unlock the 2 characters, and it really can't do a whole lot. But once you do get Grand Inquisitor, you're going to typically drop Second Sister from the team, and that's fine, because you're still going to retain a lot of value with Second Sister in regards to her ship. And overall, Inquisitors are one of the reasons why Empire is actually still relevant in the ship meta, both between TIE Interceptor prototype as well as the Scythe. Scythe is another Conquest character, or Conquest ship rather, so there is a different method of getting him, but at the same time, you have to have the pilots, Fifth Brother and Grand Inquisitor, to get it going. So Second Sister retains a lot of value in the case of her ship, and even once you completely finish the process of getting Inquisitors up there, and you unlock Reva, and you have to drop Ninth Sister from the team, or you don't have to drop Ninth Sister, but you'll want to drop Ninth Sister from the team, you can actually go and put her in with a Lord Vader team. And this is actually not just a random home that she can sit on because she has the right tags. She actually synergizes with Lord Vader very well. When we look into how he gains his master, or rather how he gains his ultimate charge, you'll see here that he typically will gain a 2% ultimate charge whenever a Empire Darkside debuffed ally, Darkside ally received damage, he gains 2% ultimate charge. Increased to 3% if that user was an unaligned Force user. This is a big deal because while Inquisitors are Empire, they are in addition to that also unaligned Force user. And because she's a tank and Lord Vader will eventually mark her, it becomes very, very easy for him to get a lot of ultimate charge in the very beginning, with or without Maul, with her on the team, or at least it becomes easier than it would be without her. So she does have an ideal home outside of the Inquisitors once you do eventually level up and get Reva. And the team, quite frankly, just does well in every single game mode that they're allowed to participate in. In GAC and TW, they not only have really good Omicrons between Grand Inquisitor and Reva, but because of their faction tags that we've talked about here briefly, they pretty consistently get a Datacron. Not every single season, obviously, but Empire and unaligned Force users have gotten them numerous times, and even Inquisitors will get them from time to time. We already talked about the ship aspect and the fact that their pilots really kind of propping Empire up, along with Defender, which is not an Inquisitorious pilot. And then in TB, they have very specific missions. And then even in Conquest doesn't always have the exact same data disk, but we typically rotate between Zealous Ambition and Amplify Agony, of which the Inquisitors just do very well with both. They have a lot of debuffs, and they have several support characters that are constantly attacking, like Seventh Sister or Fifth Brother. So overall, basically what I'm getting at is we're going to look at the numbers. But the Inquisitors is one of the best factions in the entire game to have. They help in every single game mode. They lead into bigger things. They can help progress you in guilds. There's a lot of stuff that they're all doing at the same time. Now, in the very opposite direction, unfortunately, we have Boba Fett, Scion of Django. And just a very brief history on his character. When he first came to the game, he was one of the first Conquest characters, not the first, but he was, I think, the fourth that we got into the game if you include ships. And he was our actual first character to have 3 TW Omicrons, or 3 Omicrons in general. And I'll be honest, CG just really missed the mark on this character outside of TW. When you look at his leadership, and especially you compare it to some of the more modern TW triple Omicron characters, like even GI or DTMG or Trench, the characters seem to be a little bit more balanced on what they could do outside of TW. This was not the case for Boba Fett, Scion of Django. Boba Fett, Scion of Django, quite frankly, his leadership, it's garbage outside of TW. If you look at the only really 2 things it does, where they get critical avoidance while they have tenacity up, and while debuffs bounty hunters, scoundrel allies gain 30% critical damage, that's awful. Like, you can find 3 or 4 or 5 better bounty hunter leaders that you should be using instead of him, again, outside of TW. Now, if you do go for the pack, you will have all the TW Omicrons, in which case you pretty much unlock the entirety of Boba Fett, Scion of Django's personality. We're not just getting normal things like mastery and speed, but you're also getting damage reduction, even more speed, more health and protection, an easier contract, more contract things. So you really just unlock his kit in its entirety, and it is a pretty good tool to being able to take down Lord Vader in TW. The problem with it, and this is kind of the general problem that most people have with TW Omicrons, is if most of your guilds doesn't dedicate to getting those Omicrons and being able to take down a wall or being able to set an entire wall on defense, the most you're getting out of it is fun. And at the end of the day, this is a game, so do what makes you happy, do what you want to do for fun. But overall, just kind of know what you're getting into and what you're getting your guilds into, possibly, where if you run into a Lord Vader wall and you're the only one who has the counter, it might not actually make a difference at all. Now, outside of TW, he can still do a few fun things, while again, his leadership is, quite frankly, really bad. He can work well under a Boskly. This is one of the teams that I've used in 3v3 before, where it's really nice where if you run into a team like a SWGOH-led Talon team, you can actually get contract pretty easily because Boba Fett, Scion of Django, he's able to span pretty consistently his Bounty Breaker, which has an AoE, so even if Talon is stealthed, he can still hit her every time because he has an AoE, and if she's not stealthed, well, then he can just go and hit her anyways because he has the Bounty Hunter's Resolve or whatever it is that allows him to ignore taunt. So overall, does have a use there in 3v3. And then in 5v5, he's not... I really wouldn't die on the hill on saying that he's the best in a Balin comp under mercenary tags, but it's still not bad. Like, he synergizes in this fun way with Marok, where he's constantly trying to give out debuffs. Marok gives the whole team turn meter when debuffs are resisted. It doesn't work out super well because you eventually get tenacity down on the enemy and then the debuffs aren't being resisted. But at the same time, this 5th slot for mercenary doesn't seem to be the biggest deal in the world. You can put him there, you can put Kira there. So again, it's not like he's transforming the team in a big way, but it's a place you can use him. So again, quick review before we finally get into the numbers. Inquisitor is pretty much amazing in every single way possible. No dead weight, great longevity, ton of game modes. Scion of Django, very limited in pretty much every way possible. Not useless, but still very, very limited. Now, like I said, we're going to eventually get to the data, and now is the time. So this is the spreadsheet that a lot of you are familiar with, and what I've done in here is I've included both the Inquisitors as well as Boba Fett, along with some of the other packs that are currently active. I realize this is not all of them, but just to get an idea of where they stand in regard to them, that's why they're here. Now, for what we do here, typically, is we look at the amount of chirotechs that you get by buying the pack and just immediately getting the characters to go from Gear 1, or really from Unlocked all the way up to Relic 5, how much chirotech you're not going to have to spend on them by doing this process, and then also signal data. So this does not include things like shards, which is pretty important for Boba Fett considering he's a Proving Grounds character. It does also not include Gear 12 pieces, which are a crunch for people. So the Inquisitors actually might be a little bit deflated because of that, because they have more Gear 12 pieces, because there are more characters involved in here. But overall, using those metrics that we just described, The Inquisitors pack is going to be worth about $450, and it only costs $50, making it about 9 times better overall. The main reason for this is the massive amount of Chirotech. So this value is not going to be very true for you at all if Chirotech, for whatever reason, is no longer a bottleneck. But I will point out, like, this is our master sheet for the Lightspeed bundle comparisons. There's not a single other one we've seen so far that has truly had this few of characters with this amount of Chirotech. General Skywalker actually gets really close, but we kind of fudged the numbers a little bit there with the Negotiator because we were considered the get to you would use for Negotiator. Same can be true for Ki-Adi-Mundi. Overall, none of them really actually hit that amount of Chirotech truly. So it is a little bit unprecedented just because of the amount they have. Boba Fett, Scion of Jango, again, is a Proving Grounds character. I don't think that's fair to put into the equation because most people out there are not refreshing Boba Fett's Proving Grounds. There's a lot of other characters where people will, like Cat or Maul. Boba Fett really just doesn't, so it doesn't seem fair to give him that value if nobody else would also attribute it to him. I will say this. One of the big things that we are not including in the calculation that I will give you the numbers on is the fact that Boba Fett is getting his 3 TW Omicrons. And if you were to actually go, you can't really buy Omicrons just with pure crystals, at least normally. But one of the most consistent ways that you can kind of have a roundabout way of doing it is by going to the Legends store and by using your currency or by using your crystals to refresh the Legends events, whether you have 1 or 2 Galactic Legends unlocked. You can then go ahead and use that currency to buy more Omicrons than you would normally be able to. It puts the Omicrons at about a rate of 500 crystals per mat times 60 mats because that's the 3 full. And it brings us to a grand total of about 30,000 crystals, meaning that there is $190 extra value in the Boba Fett pack if you want to include those Omicrons. The reason why I didn't include it in the overall calculation is because a lot of people just aren't doing that. So again, I don't want to necessarily attribute numbers to something that nobody would ever do on a normal basis. But if you want to know what it looks like, that's what it looks like. And then I guess if you added $190 extra here, you would end up with 250, and then the value would be about 6 or 7 times better. So overall, that is what it looks like. Inquisitors have a very normal overall value of 9 times better. Again, if we go back to the master sheet, that is a number that is not necessarily uncommon. You can see here 10 times better. That was true for the Mando pack that we got a while ago. Another 9 times better would have been the 3PO pack. The Jedi pack for the raid. Afra was only 7 times better. So Revan was 11 times better. So really not that unheard of. Boba Fett, Scion of Jango's is wildly low. And part of the issue is just because I don't want to attribute value to him that people wouldn't do outside of this type of pack. Mainly Proving Ground shards as well as the Omicrons, which were for characters like Cat that we've done previously, we actually have given them that value because people have actually refreshed Proving Grounds for Commander Ahsoka Tano. So that is going to be it overall, what the value looks like. If it wasn't abundantly clear, Inquisitors yay, Boba Fett nay, but at least you have all the data to make an educated decision for yourself. So thank you all for watching, and as always, stay awesome.